This game's going to come down to one player and one player only, and he is the biggest X factor, Dylan Raiola. They play hard-nosed and inspired football, and they did it last year too at times. The detriment to the team last year was quarterback play. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time for the Colorado Primetime-led Buffaloes versus the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Woo! Man, oh man, not only am I excited for this game, but I'm excited for this preview. This game has a ton of hype and attention around it, rightfully so, and I think it's going to be an amazing game. This reminds me of those memes where it's something like two idiots fighting or two clowns fighting, because that's what Colorado and Nebraska is. On one hand, you got the traveling circus, which is Colorado. On the other hand, you got Nebraska, who has one of the greatest fan bases of all time. They sell out every single game, but still, somehow, someway, they find a way to lose games they should always win. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pulling it up because Colorado hosted last year, so now this is going to be a home game for Nebraska. Yeah, so speaking of the traveling circus, ironically enough, they will actually be traveling for this game. By this point in time in the video, I've more than likely already rubbed Nebraska and Colorado fans the wrong way, but I'm not telling you anything that's not true. Colorado is, well, Colorado, enough said. Nebraska is like that uncle that shows up to the cookouts talking about his glory days in high school. Nebraska had a decent run back in the day, and they used to be good. They used to be a blue blood, but that's over. It's long gone. The days of Nebraska being a top college football program are over, they've been over, and they're never going to return. And the reason for that is fairly simple. These top 4- and 5-star recruits don't want to play in Lincoln, Nebraska. I already know you're going to have some Nebraska fan. He is already running to the comments as we speak. He is flying to the comments. Oh, Matt, you're wrong, buddy, because we got 5-star quarterback Dylan Raiola. Listen up, pal. I'm talking about for the vast majority. Yeah, you get a couple in 5-star recruits, but my point is you're not getting as many as Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, so on and so on. I need to get a move on because we're not here to talk about why Nebraska's not relevant anymore. We're here to preview and predict this game. This is the battle of the mid. Last year, Colorado sucked, didn't make a bowl game. Similar situation for Nebraska. However, with that being said, both of these teams did play last year, and Colorado got the best of them, and it wasn't even close. I remember that game like it was yesterday. Nebraska lost because of one reason and one reason only: Jeff Sims. Thank the Lord that era is over. I genuinely felt bad for Nebraska fans having to watch that guy play quarterback. Now you got a very prestigious quarterback, young quarterback at that, Dylan Raiola. We will get to him in just a second. Right now we're going over all the basics. For Colorado, it's still the same team as last year. They're not very good. Offensive line shaky. Defense not that good, but they do have one of the best quarterbacks in the nation and arguably the best player in the nation, Travis Hunter. Jimmy Horn Jr. is a standout wide receiver. Running backs are pretty much irrelevant. Not because their running backs are awful, it's because they don't run the ball. When they choose to run the ball, like I said, offensive line isn't good, so you're really just playing a couple of dudes. The best analogy I can give you, if you're not familiar with this Colorado football team, is they're like an AAU basketball team. They roll a ball out on the court, and they got a couple of guys that are going to make plays. That's all you need to know about them. They're not a serious football team, and their defense is still awful. Moving along here to Nebraska, as bad as I've talked about them the past, 3, 4, 5 years on the channel, I actually think this team has potential. Their record last year was a terrible indicator on how good they were, because they were a quarterback away from winning about 3 to 4 of those games. And when I say 3 or 4 of those games, let me clarify, I'm talking about the games they lost. Fast forward time to our current day, they got the quarterback. They got their guy, so you can check off that box. Nebraska's offense last year was bad. Their defense was bad. Everything was bad. In their first game against UTEP this year, they did win 40-7. But to tell you the truth, it's really hard for me to gauge how good or not so good or great or not so great their defense is in a game against UTEP. So that's really a question mark to me, but I don't think it matters too much because Colorado's going to put up points. I will tell you this, though. It wasn't hard for me to figure out that their offense is already 3 times better than last year's. And I do think a main reason of that is because Matt Rule was in his second year, and now he's comfortable. In year one, when you inherit a terrible program like Nebraska, you're just trying to get your feet wet. Year 2 is when you can kind of, not fully, but kind of get comfortable, and I think that's where he's at. He's getting some of his guys in there. He's installing some of his principles. Like I said, Nebraska has potential. Here's the biggest question. How much potential? That's the unknown. I think their offensive line's decent. Obviously, they have what I'm going to label as already a really good quarterback. I have no problem saying that whatsoever. I kept up with Dylan Raiola all throughout high school. He's that good. The wide receiver play for Nebraska, it's nothing like Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn Jr., but it's solid. Running back plays pretty good. I think you can make a legit case and argument and say Nebraska right now is a good football team. Will they make me eat my words for saying that? Probably, because that's what Nebraska does. In all these years they've been good/decent, they somehow screw it up. It's insane. I've never seen anything like it. Now that I've given you a nice little brief run through of Colorado and Nebraska, let's take a look at this line. I assume Nebraska's favored. Hold on. Yep, got it right here. Nebraska, 7.5-point favorite. I would say, yeah, that sounds about right. Here's one of my biggest dilemmas trying to preview this game. I don't know if Colorado can block Nebraska, because if you watch their first game against North Dakota State, every single time Shedeur Sanders threw a pass, he was getting hit in his chest. And that was North Dakota State. No disrespect to them, but I like to assume if NDSU could break through Colorado's offensive line, so can Nebraska. But even if that does happen, Shedeur can scramble a little bit, and I think Shedeur Sanders is going to have a typical Shedeur Sanders type of day in performance. He's going to throw for around 250, 300 yards, couple of touchdowns. Travis Hunter's going to do Travis Hunter things as well. You know what you're going to get from Shedeur, Travis, and those guys. It's just the offensive line that's like, can they hold up? Don't know, and the defense is not a question. They suck. I actually think Nebraska, when they're on defense, they could chain together a couple of stops. This game's going to come down to one player and one player only, and he is the biggest X factor. Dylan Raiola. If he has a great game, Nebraska wins with ease. If he struggles, it could be a close one and they could lose. I don't see a scenario where Nebraska's offensive line struggles to block Colorado's defense line. I do think Colorado's defense line is better than what some people give them credit for, because from time to time they'll make a play. But overall, they're not some ferocious unit that you should be scared of, in my humble opinion. If I was a Colorado fan, I'd be worried about the secondary because it is extremely weak. You do got Shiloh Sanders, but outside of that, there's not too much going on there. And Dylan Raiola, if he does have time to throw, is the type of player who could make you pay for a lot of mistakes. It's funny because NDSU is known as this running team, and their quarterback, Cam, he lit Colorado up through the air. And Matt Rule's an offensive-minded head coach, so you best believe he's licking his chops. This is a season-defining game for Nebraska football. I'm talking about the fan base, the program, everybody involved. They need this win. For Colorado, they don't need it. They'll be fine. They don't expect to go 10-2 this year. They all know they're not dumb. They're only going to win around, well, they think they might win 8 games, but we all know they're going to struggle to win 6. Point is, all the Colorado fans, they ain't going to be upset if they lose this game, but Nebraska fans will be. And I think the Nebraska players know how important this game is to everybody, so that's going to give them a little more motivation. This may shock some of y'all considering how bad I've talked about Nebraska football on this channel and even in this video, but I think they're a football team. What do I mean when I say they're a football team? Because I know some of you are sitting there saying, well, duh, Matt, obviously they're a football team. Where I'm going with that and what I'm trying to say is Nebraska is a team you shouldn't take lightly. They play hard-nosed and inspired football, and they did it last year too at times. The detriment to the team last year was quarterback play. And I thought their defense was actually decent last year, but it just gets so demoralizing when you're on defense and you know your offense isn't going to help you out, not even to the slightest. That's what happened with Clemson against Georgia. When your offense is terrible and you're getting stop after stop after stop, it just wears you down mentally. Now that Nebraska finally has an offense, and we didn't even talk about this, when you have an offense that also keeps your defense off the field, gives them time to rest, I think it's going to help out the defense. On the flip side for Colorado, they're not a football team. They're a bunch of individuals. I don't see how Colorado wins this game. There's not a scenario that I've tried to play on in my head where they come out on top. They're just not good. With Nebraska, they can be good, but Colorado can't. I like Nebraska in this one, even to cover the spread. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think they win soundly 31-20. I will repeat that score. Nebraska 31, Colorado 20. We shall see what happens, and I'll tell you right now before we end out this video, if Colorado wins this game, I will be shocked. To the Nebraska football team, I talked extremely highly of you in this video, so I'd appreciate it if you don't make me look like a fool. I've never really talked highly about Nebraska before, so if you want to keep this streak alive, let's put on a good performance. Because I tell you what, man, if Nebraska goes out there and lays an egg, I'm going to be pissed because that means you make me look like an idiot. I guess I'll have to wait and see. I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. But